Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to take a look at the Stamina Sorcerer Werewolf PvP build for the Summerset chapter. I do have a written guide on my website, link in the description below. This build is optimized for battlegrounds, however it also works for champion points and non-champion points Cyrodiil. Now, at the moment we are in the Cyrodiil campaign with champion points here, so unbuffed, those are our stats. Now, when I buff myself up, more or less, you can see we have really high stats in the CP campaign. Now, let's go to the non-champion points campaign to better reflect the battleground stats, because it's optimized for that. Now we're in the non-champion points campaign, which basically reflects the battleground stats. So when we look at it, when I fully buff up... Oh, I forgot Hurricane before, huh? Those are our stats, still pretty sexy. Especially you can see we have a lot of crit resistance. As a werewolf, I think you have to be kinda tanky to survive, because a lot of people will focus you. So we run a specific set that buffs our resistance by, or like the crit resistance by a lot. I will get to that later. First I will go over the basics in human form and just gear sets, CP and so on, and at the end I will show you the werewolf stuff. I also do have a gameplay video of this build from Battlegrounds. I will put the link in the description as well. And we are running the Warrior Mundus Stone, which is really nice because it gives us more weapon damage. In terms of drink or buff food, you want to run Dubious Cameron Throne because we're running Bone Pirate. So this helps a lot to like buff the overall max stamina and stamina recovery and so on. In terms of potions, you have two free choices. So basically, I usually use those here, the speed pots. So it's essence of immovability. So you get CC immunity, you get speed buff, and you get restore stamina. So you basically have permanent speed buff all the time, which is nice in Werewolf because you want to be fast. Second option would be those, because now here you don't have the speed buff anymore, but you get a lot of health back. And then I also sometimes use detect pots just to kind of kill off those annoying night blades that keep cloaking. It really helps, but you have to be careful with your stamina management, because those only give you Magicka, stealth detection and CC immunity. This drink would also work, but at the moment it's bugged with Bone Pirate, so it doesn't work. So that's why we use Dubious. Later on, if Zenimax actually fixes it, you could use this. Race, Red Guard is the best choice, simply because we get so much sustain from this passive. 10% max stam and 9% stamina recovery. Imperial, Orc and so on, Kashyyyds also work. You might have to invest a little bit more points into stamina recovery. Just keep that in mind. Obviously, want to be a werewolf, you need all the passives and so on and all the abilities. I will go into more detail after the human form stuff. So the first set that we use is Impregnable Armor. Now this gives us half stamina Magicka and 2500 crit resistance. We are also using, you see, we have 1, 2, 3, 3 impenetrable. In the end, it would be best to have like 3 to 4 impen and then about 3 well-fitted pieces. I just didn't have any well-fitted here. Just so you can get a little bit sprint cost reduction and so on. Well-fitted is actually really nice, and also the dodge roll stuff. But impenetrable, you need at least 3 or 4 of those. Make sure to have that, so we get some decent crit resistance. Then the next set we use is the Bone Pirate Tatters. So while we have a drink active, we gain almost 2k stamina and our recovery also increases. That's how we get so much stamina recovery, even though we are in heavy armor. Next thing you have to be aware of is that you should run 5 heavy, 2 medium, very important. Bone Pirate is medium armor, so you need to have 2 pieces here. And then you basically need 1 heavy, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now the monster set, you kinda can run several monster sets. It's really up to you what you run. A lot of people like Troll King. I, for example, in Battlegrounds, I kinda like Earthgore, because it gives us a huge burst heal, which is also really nice. And so on. So monster set, you can legit use what you want. Earthgore, Troll King, Selene, Viper, Sun, whatever you want, okay? I just like this because it also supports the group a little bit. And it just has a overall really big AoE heal. Now Troll King would also be really good, okay? Troll King is this set. Which gives us also a lot of healing when we drop below 50%. The reason why I chose Earthgore this time is simply because in Werewolf, I think it gives you better kind of burst healing compared to Troll King. So yeah, but like I always say, adjust the build to your needs. I'm also experimenting around. I just decided now to go with this, just to have something a little bit different. In terms of weapons, now front bar, I front barred Impreg, so we get the resistance only on the front bar. Keep that in mind. Back bar, you could run an Impreg sword if you want to. Just to keep the resistance on both bars, but because this is a werewolf build, we will transform werewolf in the front bar, so we will benefit from the crit resistance on the front bar always. And we will always get it when we're in werewolf form. In terms of traits, like I said here, 4 impen, 3 well fitted. Then on the big pieces you want tri-set enchantments and otherwise stamina. Here I have 3 pieces robust, 1 weapon damage, a stamina recovery and another weapon damage. If you're not a red guard, I would recommend running another recovery glyph or a cost reduction glyph. In terms of weapons, so front bar I run a charged Impreg sword with disease enchantment. Now you don't necessarily need this, I simply did not have any other trait available. You could run Nernhound here to get more overall weapon damage. The disease thing can be nice because you apply major defile on the enemy, reducing their healing almost permanently with charged, which is really cool. Infused here just to get the weapon damage buff. Back bar, I run a sword with escapist poisons. Those are just really nice, they drain stamina from the enemy and they immobilize for a very short duration. But it's all optional. So yeah. That's about the setup, champion points, and also keep in mind if you want to run other sets, go for it. But I do recommend building for a little bit tankiness, because when you're in werewolf form, people will focus you because you're dangerous. 56, 22, 61, 42, 20, 49, 42, 37, 23, 43, 56. Actually, 55 here is enough. Just check out my website. I do have, like, the champion points are optimized there. I'm not sure why I have 56 here. I think it should be 55. 48, 1, 37, 49, 37, 37, 50, and 40. But keep in mind in Battlegrounds, those champion points are not active. The build is optimized for Battlegrounds. This is just in case you want to play in Cyrodiil. Passives, you want most of the class passives. There is some that you don't need, but I usually list all. Like, we don't have a pet active, so you don't necessarily need Expert Summoner. Two-handed, dual wield. You want the first 2 medium armor and the last one just to benefit from the 2 medium armor pieces we have. All heavy armor pieces. Then the passives, the werewolf passives. Fighter's Guild, Undaunted, to get the 4% extra resources. If you have Assault and Support, the racial passives and medicinal use, which is very important, because 30% more, like longer duration on the potions. Now in terms of abilities in the human form, Streak on the front bar, so we have dual wield and two-hander. Streak is really nice. First off, you can kind of get away from enemies and stun them at the same time. Deadly Cloak reduces AoE damage by 25%, so it's really strong. Plus it also deals a little bit damage. Block Raise here to help heal us a little bit, also deals damage over time on the enemy. Steel Tornado. Now, I like this because it actually deals quite a lot of damage in Battlegrounds. If there is several enemies around you. If you would like, you could run Shrouded Daggers. Because this snares the enemies and it also deals nice damage. So keep in mind. Vigor for our heal. Obviously the Werewolf Berserker. You want the Berserker. Gives you very high bleeding damage. And you get 15% extra stamina recover in the front bar. Forward Momentum. This is nice, so we have Snare and Root immunity. For 6 seconds or 7 or like even 8 if it is max level. It also gives a small heal over time. Critical Rush, Gap Closer. And especially with if you have a Maelstrom weapon, it deals a lot of damage. Like I said, you could run a second Impreg weapon. Hurricane. Now first off, as you can see, 15 and yeah, 15.5k. When we use this, it goes up to 21k. This gives us a lot of resistance. Plus, it applies speed buff. Minor Expedition, so we gain 10% speed buff. This is Swing. This is here to CC your enemies and just like this is your hard-hitting ability when in human form. Crit Surge. One of the better Stem Sorc abilities, because while active, dealing a critical strike heals you for 3.5k health. Now keep in mind, we have very low weapon crit. However, if you have Deadly Cloak running, the Blood Craze running, and you do other damage with Hurricane, it will proc every 1 to 2 seconds anyway. So it's really not too big of a deal that we have low crit. And Dawnbreaker of Smithing, if you like, we can AoE stun enemies if you want to. Once again, you can change this around. If you want Execute, like Reverse Slash, go for it. You could replace it with Crit Rush if you want, but I really like the Gap Closer, that's why I chose this. Now let's quickly go to my home just to charge ulti and for Werewolf explanation. The Werewolf is also kinda important, you need to know a lot of things. Now while I'm loading ulti, a few very important things. I do have a Werewolf mechanics video, like guide. I will put it into the description, like the link in the description as well. The number one death issue why werewolves rip is because they stay too long in the werewolf form. What I do with this build is I only stay in werewolf, or I only transform into werewolf if I need to nuke somebody down. Most of the times those abilities here are more than enough. With like this is Swing, Crit Rush and so on. Blood Craze, Deadly Cloak, Tornado, etc, etc. Now, if before you usually transform into werewolf, you need to make sure to buff up. You want to have Forward Momentum active, you want to have Hurricane, Crit Surge, Deadly Cloak active. Because this here gives you extra damage in werewolf form, this as well, this heals you and this heals you. So that's very important. And when those buffs fall off, so especially the Crit Surge, which is an extra heal in werewolf form, when this falls off, you should transform back. Unless you're playing in a group that has a healer, a specific healer with you that actually can heal you. That's usually when you play solo, all those buffs are gone. You don't really have a lot of like abilities going anymore, and that's why people die usually. While you have all those buffs up, you cannot, like, it's really hard to actually die. So when I buff myself up with all the stuff and then I transform, you can see 4.5k, well this is with the, it would be like 3.5k, but we have basically 31k spell resistance and physical resistance. 47k max stem. And so on, and decent weapon damage. Now if I actually see, it goes almost up to 4k if the weapon enchantment procs. In my guide I also showcase you what abilities, like Do sets carry over? Do weapon enchantments carry over to werewolf form and so on? There's a lot of things that you need to know. And once the buffs fall off, you want to transform back. I just use werewolf to burst down enemies and that's it. Because like I said, the moment this falls off, you have not a lot of healing anymore. That's the thing. Now when we look at the werewolf abilities, this is kind of your jump thingy. If you strike an enemy that is off balance, you stun them for 2 seconds, and it's a gap closer. Then here, since rage, this is your heal, and it also increases your weapon damage by 10%. Vicious roar, this fears enemies. So I usually apply claw, fear, and then I use Hole of Agony. You can see that in the gameplay video as well. Fear is really nice. Then you have Hole of Agony. This is your main direct damage ability in Werewolf. It deals so much damage. And Claws of Life. This gives you a small heal over time. Heals you for 55% of the disease damage done. If you actually hit 2-3 enemies with this, you get a lot of healing back. Very important. That's more or less it about the build. There is a lot of other stuff. If you have 2 werewolves or 3 werewolves, you can stay a lot longer in werewolf form and so on, but that's all explained in my mechanics video, otherwise the video will get too long. I hope the build is kind of understandable. I really recommend watching the gameplay video, just to see how I play it. That's more or less it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and have a nice day. Cheers.